Breaking the Fourth Wall is brought to you by InvestComics.com and Famous Faces and Funnies in West Melbourne, Florida. Thanks for listening. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Breaking the Fourth Wall Special Edition, Special Interview Edition. This is our first interview we've done, so it might be a little wonky, but I think it'll be fun. My name's Shaun Cobble.
And I'm Shaun Sorenson.
And we have special guest Joe Harris with us today. Say hi, Joe.
Hey, guys. How are you today?
We are awesome, and we're glad to have you, Joe. We're very excited to have you as our first guest on Breaking the Fourth Wall. All right, so, Joe, you've had quite a bit of work in comics over the years. I guess here recently you've been known as the writer for Firestorm, obviously, and then your very own book that is very hot right now, Great Pacific. So you want to tell us a little bit about Great Pacific?
Yeah, Great Pacific is a new Image Comics series I've created with Argentinian artist Martin Morazzo. It's a sci-fi environmental adventure thriller series. It's about this young guy who is due to inherit this vesting interest, this control of one of the biggest oil companies the world has ever known, one of the largest oil fortunes, but rather than pocket that inheritance and take the easy way out, he decides to throw it all away and instead heads out to the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, which we've sort of fictionalized and hyper-realized as this floating continent of trash in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, and he proceeds to plant his flag and declare it his own sovereign nation.
New Texas.
And it's, like I said, it's what's that? He calls it New Texas after his, it's kind of a tongue-in-cheek term because he's from Houston. He's from, the heart of the American petroleum industry. And he takes a little dig at his home state that I think he's both very fond of and, a little critical of as well. And so he heads out to the garbage patch, founds this settlement called New Texas, and goes about his business of attempting to tame this artificial land and build his own country from it. He's got to deal with, all sorts of threats like the elements and mutated marine life, like creatures like octopi that have been mutated for the worse by all the pollution that's sort of seeping into the environment out there. He's got to deal with hostile native people who are indigenous to some nearby islands, as well as we'll soon find out the United States Navy who come looking to drag his ass back to Texas because he did a few bad things on his way out the door before he left this country.
Yeah, you could say that. He was a little bit naughty on his way out. I like how you did that, by the way.
What in particular?
Well, I mean, this show spoils a lot, so I'm not really going to spoil anything by telling people the first issue. If you haven't read it, you need to read Great Pacific anyway, everybody. In the first issue where he fakes his own death and on the way out basically embezzles the majority of the fortune from the family company in order to do, everything that his family probably wouldn't have wanted him to do, I guess,
Yeah, he's a little bit of a bastard, and there's some comeuppance coming his way for some of the things he's done. He's not, our protagonist in the series isn't, he's noble enough, I describe, but he's no bleeding heart, there's a line in that first issue where he says it doesn't take a bleeding heart to save the world, it takes a profit motive, and it's not completely altruistic on his part. He thinks he has the answers, but he also thinks he's the one to provide them. He is an industrialist in the tradition of, great American innovators like John D. Rockefeller and Cornelius Vanderbilt. But
sorry, we've got some dogs barking in the background. So please, if you hear the dogs going crazy sometimes, just talk right over them. Our listeners are very used to it.
Talking about American industrialists gets me riled up. So he's no angel. He's definitely if you want to make an omelet, you got to break a few eggs kind of guy. And he is not afraid to make a mess, and he's not afraid to think big. He thinks the world has big problems that nobody's tackling. And he's just, high on himself enough to believe he's the guy to solve the problem. And he's got a lot of ideas. He's got a tremendous amount of resources and even more creativity. So we're going to watch what this guy attempts to do. And like I said, he's noble enough. He really means well, but he's no angel. And I think for me, writing him and just enjoying watching this character grow, a lot of what's fun about it is really exploring his motivations and kind of getting into why he does the things he does and whether or not he's always going to make the right decision going forward.
One of the things I really like that you've done so far with the character is on the surface, everything about this guy, from, the young, playboyish, super rich kid from basically, the Bush family, oil tycoons, all the way to his name, fucking Chaz, which is the most hateable goddamn name, and
right.
And just everything about him, you see him and you're like, man, fuck this guy. Like, I don't want to like him. And you start to like him. You can see what he's doing. You're still like, yeah, he's kind of a little prick, but at the same time, he's doing something good. And maybe not all, like you said, not all altruistic, but something good's going to come of it. And you got to give him that much, Like, I don't know. I like that he's not just one of those instantly hate everything about him characters, and not one of those instantly love everything about him heroes. He's a very complex character that you're really not sure how to take.
So he's not a two-dimensional character.
No, he's not at all.
Right. Well, I'm glad you guys think so. It was important for me with this book to not, whenever someone asks me about this book, they assume that it's this super preachy, save the world with a message kind of work, and I always say that there's no way you could do a story like this and not evoke the environmental themes. There's just no way. You can't set something out on the Great Pacific Garbage Patch and not strike that chord. But I've always been insistent from the beginning that this book's not going to preach. At least I hope not. I mean, maybe once in a while we can't help it, but for the most part, I'd rather explore a guy who, means to do the right thing, but when he's in that position of having to make a decision in which, we push all our chips to the middle of the table and do the absolute selfless right thing, or we hedge a little bit because we think if we don't do 100% of one option, we leave a little bit in reserve and essentially get to make some more decisions going forward where we may be of importance a little bit later. So there are, people who have power tend to preserve power, and how much this character decides to do the very, very right thing and how much he decides to build his empire is something that's going to be weaving throughout this series, and hearing you guys say that, it makes me happy because that's much more interesting to me. I didn't want some guy out there trying to make the world, trying to get the world to start recycling more. That would be great if my comic book had the ability to elicit that from people and to change behavior, on a big scale. But I'd rather tell a complicated story that illuminates some of these themes. Starring some characters who are not completely, hell-bent on saving the world at every turn. I think you can do a lot more challenging stuff with the material if you kind of, weave left and right of center a little bit, if that makes any sense.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And it's really easy. It seems like people tend to write your very typical anti-hero characters where, like, this is a bad dude that's decided to do right, and I like that it's not that, you could easily just take a guy who's kind of a jerk and he decides all of a sudden he's going to wake up one morning and be a good guy, which can be done well. Don't get me wrong. I've read a lot of books where it is done well, but it's nice to see a different turn on it where, you're not even really sure yet why Chaz is completely doing all this and what all he's going to do. And I don't know, like it's interesting so far. I'm really digging the book a lot. I reread the whole thing today, all 4 issues today, and I really like it a lot.
Oh, thank you very much. I mean, Chaz wants to have a good time. I'll be honest with you. I think he's definitely got some hidden. There's a term, iron hand in the velvet glove. He's got some stuff in reserve that he's saving for some big moments where we're going to see just how calculatingly capable he is, the sort of machinations he's got going on in the background. But, he's also going to be faced with a lot of challenges that are going to very starkly remind him of how fucking I need to curse. I hope that's okay.
You can cuss all you want. It's fine. You can say whatever you want on this podcast.
Fucking
he's going to be reminded regularly of how fucking unprepared he really was to come out here and undertake this. He is, there's a bit of fantasy in this for our character, and he's going to find himself so far in over his head so often that this character is going to constantly be bewildered by what he bit off, because he definitely is in over his head.
So you got the first trade getting ready to come out, I think, within the next month or so. Do you have any idea how far you're going to make this book go? How many issues or volumes?
I don't have an ideal length. I have an ending in mind, and I keep thinking of different segments that could get us there. So I would love to write Great Pacific for as long as the market would have us. I have the rest of this first year beat out pretty tightly, and I've got a good idea of what I want to do in year two. And like I said, I've got the ending. So I'm open to going for as long as we can keep doing this. I mean, this is, of all the things I've ever done, this is what feels the most personal and what I'm the most fond of. So, Martin and I both are just having a blast. And we're just happy to keep continuing. I mean, you launch a creator-owned book, you never know how it's going to be received. I mean, we could have been canceled at issue 6. So for me, the idea that people have responded well enough that I'm not worried about that right now, and I get to think about year 2 is great, And if we can keep going year 3, year 4, that's all I want to do.
Right, that's awesome. I know recently, I think it was issue 4, had the Ghost cover variant. It was a tribute to Y: The Last Man.
Right.
Is Y one of your favorite books, I assume, or?
Oh, well, I love Y: The Last Man. That was actually that cover was the brainchild of Larry Doherty at Larry's Comics, who runs the Phantom Variant program. He's always. He's always talking about how much he likes Great Pacific, and he keeps evoking some of the themes he loves from Y: The Last Man. And I don't know about those comparisons at all, but I am a big fan of Brian K. Vaughan's book. He and Pia created one of the great modern classics of this medium, and so I'm a big fan. It wasn't my idea to do it, but I was really happy to sort of, Martin and I both conceptualized it and, put our little take on it, having the octopus's tentacle instead of a straitjacket, and the two-headed seagull instead of the monkey, and it seemed like it was we had some great stuff we could play with there.
Well, that was actually my next question. I've read on a couple websites and heard it from a couple people that they're actually comparing Great Pacific to being the next Y. How does that make you feel?
I mean, I don't really know how to react to that. I don't.
Have you heard that before at all, or?
Maybe I've brushed over that in a couple of message board discussions, but I don't.
Try to not acknowledge it.
I mean, if people want to believe, if people want to think that, who am I to say no?
Right.
But I don't. I don't feel. How can I put this best? It's a seminal work, and if other people want to make some sort of comparison, that's great. I'm intent on making Great Pacific, the best I can, and that's all I really want to do. So my reaction is rather blank.
Well, personally, if it was me, if I were in your shoes, I would probably I'd have the hugest nerd boner of all time for one thing. But it's pretty amazing. I mean, it's definitely something you should be proud of. I mean, I know it's got to be humbling, but no one wants to come out and be like, yeah, totally, this is going to be the next. The book I'm writing is totally going to be the next Y: The Last Man. But the comparison's out there, and it's out there for a reason. So that's pretty amazing.
Well, I'm happy for every reader we get. To be honest with you, I don't take any of this for granted. Like I said, I was fully prepared for this to last 6 issues.
Well, that was the original plan, wasn't it, with Kickstarter? It was going to last, didn't you kickstart it, or attempt to kickstart it, as a mini at first?
I think when we attempted to fund it through Kickstarter, it was going to be, this first arc was going to be more finite. As we, once we got over to Image Comics and we started, I started really thinking about this. I started really imagining where this could go out of of this first story. So what you're seeing executed right now in the monthly Image comic series is slightly evolved from what we would have published that time before when we were attempting to fund it through Kickstarter. And I would say that everything, with this book has been for the best. Waiting to get it published, taking the time, going to Image, putting it out when we actually did put it out, it all has seemed like it has all been for the better because the timing feels great right now.
The timing for Image books is really good right now.
It's all. I love being associated with that publisher. It's a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, it's fantastic what they're putting out now. I've always been more of a DC than a Marvel guy, but lately I'm buying more Image than the other two combined. And
that's awesome. And
it's all great stuff. It's like, I find myself every month going, fuck man, how do I afford all these Image books? And but then I'm like, for the page content and the quality and the cost, you can't beat it. It's amazing. So I think you've really made a good pairing here with Image. They're a fantastic company.
I'm excited. They've got this new model of trying to put out as many first trades of series at $9.99 that they can, and Great Pacific is going to follow in that tradition. The Saga went out there and dropped at six issues collected for $9.99. That's a great deal. I'm taking a bath on that, so we're it's not that bad, but that's a pretty good deal, and just to be able to put this kind of content, to give retailers that ammunition to arm themselves to sell this the first 6 issues of series at under $10, that's great.
That's fantastic.
The fact that the content coming out of this company right now is so great across the board. It's just a good vibe. It's a good vibe. I couldn't be happier with the timing.
Well, I know it's a little early to say since you're only on issue 4, but at least the first 3, maybe the 4th one by now, have already sold out, obviously, and are going to second printings. And you've got the trade coming out and stuff. But I don't know if this is even something you've thought about yet. But could you see it coming out as one of the Image firsts, like the dollar Image first? Because I know a lot of people that get in the series by picking up that dollar Image book. I think it's a really great.
We haven't. That hasn't been run by me yet. If the company thought that was the right thing to do, I would listen to that idea. Certainly, that seems to be something that they do after a series has been around and they've dropped 1 or 2 trades.
Yeah.
And it's a great introductory thing. What are they, $1 each, right? And,
yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great idea. And I think one of the other common promotions is, what do they do? The first issue free on Comixology, things like that. I'm all for this stuff. I'm big into gateway drugs. Whatever we can get people to buy in and get them hooked. I'm into it.
Well, the gateway drug model's been working for a long time now. So if it's not broke, don't fix it, I guess.
Right.
You'll hear a couple other people in the background, too. Also, my friend Mike is here visiting from my home state of Kentucky. We're located in Florida, by the way. I didn't know if you knew that or not. And my wife, Kirsty, is here also. So they'll be piping up with the occasional question or comment. So I'm just going to think we're just multiplying or we've got a random audience, stalking you or anything.
I see. That's all
right. I'm a big fan of, I don't know how you pronounce it, but Yalafath?
Yeah, you said it right.
Oh, nice. He's awesome. Is it weird that I want a buddy cop sitcom Yalafath Lion Cat comic?
Everybody likes a good set of tentacles.
This is true. I've seen enough hentai to know where this is going.
I've been to enough conventions to know that. That's horrible.
All right, so
we're fond of her as well, and she's fond of Chaz. So
yeah, it's dynamic. The last issue 4 especially, you can see they're starting to have a little romance brewing almost.
Yeah, they've got a rapport almost, like one of those, two wolves lock eyes from across a clearing sort of communication.
Which just makes for a great visual between Chaz and a giant octopus.
Oh man, I'm looking at artwork for issue 6 right now, and you're gonna be you're gonna be blown away with what we're doing.
Oh, I'm excited already. That's amazing.
Yeah. Speaking of Chaz and Octopus, so yeah, you won't be disappointed.
So I forget the artist's name. I'm sorry. I had it open digitally and I've lost his name. What's your artist's name again?
Martin Morazzo.
Where'd you find him? Where did you guys meet up?
I found Martin on, I was looking, I was basically trolling around online looking for potential collaborators, and I was looking over Zuda, which was, DC Comics' old webcomics, now defunct webcomics division, and I found he had done this sci-fi strip called, I think it was called Absolute Magnitude,
mm-hmm.
and it had won. They had done prizes like, I don't know if it was a monthly prize like Best Strip of the Month or whatever the actual award was, but it had won one of them, and I saw his stuff, and I'm like, this guy is perfect, because I had been wondering who the hell was going to draw this for the longest time. I had this idea for at least a year by myself, and I had realized the story to a pretty good degree, but I knew I knew when I was thinking about art, if I could have anybody in the world, if I could work with anyone, it would be someone that evoked a sort of international theme that didn't feel like, he was somebody that could currently be on the rolls at Marvel or DC necessarily, because they had thought he was so talented. He was now working in a rotation there. I wanted to find somebody who evoked. If I could have worked with anybody, I would have said, I want to make this book with Mobius. Nice. I want to make this book with Jeff Darrow. Just if I could do anything. And then when I saw Martin's stuff up on the Zuda site, I just thought it had all this energy, and it didn't look like much else that I had seen, and it evoked a lot of what I love about masters like Mobius. Just this international flair and this really thin line to what he does, and it has this energy that I had not seen much of. And I wrote him and I told him what I had in mind, and he had never been published in the States before beyond that Zuda strip, and he really jumped at it. And once I showed him what it is I'd been working on, he was sending me all these designs that were just realizing this world that I had been trying to build on my own. He was taking it to a whole nother level, and I commend him month after month what he turns in. You see the detail this guy puts into things.
The pack itself is so hyper detailed. It's crazy. It does remind me of some Jeff Darrow. He kind of he makes me think of Juan Jose Reap also. Like he has kind of, I don't know what it is, maybe the faces and plus the hyper detail also, but I can definitely see a correlation there almost. So yeah, he's great. I can definitely see this guy getting a lot of work in the U.S. now because of this book. So hopefully nobody tries to take him away from you. All right, we're going to talk about some of your other books now. You have, I believe you just recently announced a new book coming up. Wars in Toyland, I believe? Is that
Wars in Toyland is a new graphic novel that I've done with Adam Polina. We used to draw X-Force back in the day. He used to kick around this industry a bit at Marvel. It's an old friend of mine, and so we did this kind of, it's this really big hardcover book. It's oversized, and it is bound on the short edge, so it opens into these big, wide, landscape double-page vistas that are just gorgeous, and it's this young, dark fantasy story about this little boy named Matthew who is pulled into his toy box where he finds that all the toys he and his older brother Alex used to play with and used to stage battles with and make war on one another with are walking and talking of their own volition and locked in this actual brutal civil war against this despotic, rotten, evil bear named Roxbury. And Matthew...
That's a great name.
Roxbury?
Yes, it's a great name.
And Matthew learns that these toys believe he is the leader they have been waiting for. He is to be their captain, who will rally them to rise up and actually defeat this despotic regime that is taken over. But it isn't until Matthew learns that his older brother Alex, who had been missing prior to all of this, may also be in this land and be Roxbury's prisoner, that he gets on board and accepts his role as leading these toys, because, you know, he desperately hopes to find his brother and get home, and whatever else works. And over the way, you know, over the journey that he's going to make with this toy army, he's going to, you know, learn the consequences of your actions. He's going to have to take responsibility for decisions he makes that don't always work out the right way, and he's going to learn that, you know, in fact, war is not a game. And rescuing his brother and trying to get home is going to be a little more complicated than he expects. And it's you know, we're really proud of it. It's gorgeous. It's a beautiful, beautiful volume, and it's got like this. It's got the right mix of very young and dark, which I really like. And I'm really excited for it to come out. It's going to be ready in July. We'll have it at Comic-Con, and yeah, been working on it for a long time. I'm super stoked to see it out there.
I hate to break in here, but not really. I don't hate it at all. But Roxbury's Prisoner sounds like a great name for a band.
Roxbury's
You can
Prisoner.
use that one. Just, you know, keep us posted, and you know.
Now, do you have a preference as when publishing as far as like a graphic novel versus monthly issues? Is like, because I know you've done both. Do you prefer to tell a story one way over the other, or?
I don't know. Some concepts just feel organically like they're better suited to one or the other, and some, you know, sometimes an opportunity presents itself. The publisher might say, you know what, I really see this as a graphic novel. I don't think we're going to really get the success or the mileage out of doing it as a mini-series or something, and we might make a determination, and I can think about it, you know, any number of ways if I've got an idea, given, you know, the opportunity. I've always had a knack for, you know, trying to make something work given, you know, where the opportunity is. But all of this said, I like writing that come out on that people, you know, put down one issue and can't wait for the next one to come out. I mean, I grew up with that paradigm, and I love that kind of serialized storytelling. So that's definitely my favorite way to go.
Well, I'm getting my wife into comics, and you know, I've given her the, you know, the good go-tos, like Y, obviously, and what else did you read? Did you read Runaways, and you know, Brian K. Vaughan pretty much is always your go-to.
I was slightly into comics long time ago.
Yeah, but you were into like
the Max.
Well, the Max is good. Yeah,
Max is really good.
But she, like, I got her into reading Saga. I was like, sit down and read this. This is awesome. Here's the first 9 issues. Read them. She's like, all right. She sits down and she reads them, and she loved them. But then issue 10 came out yesterday, and she doesn't like reading them individually. She likes reading chunks of story instead of like waiting for the monthly thing. And
well, that's fair.
Yeah, I think so.
I guess I'm just so used to reading, you know, the monthly format. You know, it's or if you're Marvel right now, the every half hour format.
Well, to defend Kirsty, like when it comes to like watching, like TV episodes that are elongated storylines, I like to watch them more right in a row, like on Netflix or something. But at times it's tedious to wait.
I mean, I've been burning through House of Cards this week.
Oh, so have we.
We have too. We absolutely have been watching that same thing.
I love, you know, they have identified that this is how people tend to absorb these, you know, shows. I mean, how many people get into Breaking Bad because they missed the first 4 seasons, but they catch up on Netflix just before season 5 launches? And to now launch new series that are going to put out 12 episodes in a season that you have not seen at all. I mean, is that how Arrested Development is going to drop?
Yeah,
I mean, this is exciting.
I think so. Yeah, I think it's going to be like that.
Yeah,
also.
Arrested Development. They're doing all 12 episodes, I believe, in May. They're releasing them in one day.
Oh wow,
nice. There goes everybody's day.
Across America, productivity will grind to a halt as we all watch 12 hours.
Exactly.
We are definitely serial abusers of Netflix and Hulu. I think we burned through the first 6 seasons of Supernatural in like 2 weeks. It was ridiculous. Have you seen Lilyhammer, the one of the first Netflix original series?
I have not. No.
It's awesome. Did you like The Sopranos?
Sure. Is it centered around just that city, or does it have to do with the Olympics that were in Lilyhammer? Or?
It is after the Olympics, and
Okay.
basically a mobster guy goes into he turns over evidence and goes into witness protection. And they're like, "Where do you want to go?" And he's like, "I'll only turn over evidence if you can put me in Lilyhammer," because he was fascinated with Lilyhammer after the Olympics. And so they take this New York, New Jersey mobster guy and put him in Lilyhammer, and the whole series is set around him being there and in this little town, and it's I can't think of the guy's name. He was in The Sopranos. He plays he's the guy that plays with Bruce Springsteen.
Stephen Van Zandt.
Stephen Van Zandt, yeah, he's the main guy, and it's a pretty short series. I think it was 12 episodes, maybe only 8, but it's pretty good, and it's he's definitely playing a character he's played before, but it was a pretty fun little series about a mobster in Lilyhammer. So it's I think it's something you probably enjoy if you want to check out. Sorry to tangent there, but that's kind of a theme of our show is tangents.
No, it's all good. I'm happy to know about Little Steven's latest work. I have not seen Lilyhammer, so I'll keep an eye out.
I believe it was the first or one of the first Netflix exclusives they did, because I watched it about a year ago, maybe a little over a year ago. So it's been a little while.
All right.
Shaun, any books you want to talk about?
Nothing I can think of off the top of my head now. I got so distracted with I want to watch this Lilyhammer show now that every question I had just disappeared. I'm like, I want to watch this.
I've got a question. I'm skimming through your site, joeharris.net, if anybody out there wants to go check it out. It's got your list of the books you've done and your creator-owned stuff. And one of the things that really interested me was the Hashishians.
Right.
Is that out? Did it get published, or is it upcoming? Or
no, it's been delayed in production. The problem is, and it's a good problem for my collaborator, but Trevor McCarthy, who created the Hashishian with me, is he's been doing a lot of work out of the Bat Office. I mean, I think you've seen him regularly in the rotation on Batwoman, and he did the Gates of Gotham miniseries. And
that was a great series.
Yeah, DC is really happy with what he does with Gotham City. So he's been really busy, and production on the Hashishian has not been as expeditious as we would like. But hopefully that will come out soon, because I'm very fond of that book. I have a very soft spot in my heart for stoner comedies, and I was raised on Cheech and Chong movies, and I love stuff like Pineapple Express and the Friday movies and any number of other things, and the Hashishian is this sort of it's politically themed, and it's about the state of international affairs that this country is engaged in, and in a rather lighthearted way, but it is every inch a stoner comedy to its core, and I do hope we get it out there soon, because it's I've always felt that market is sorely underserved in the comic industry, and
I think so too.
I think they need more. Yeah.
It looks amazing. Like when I was going through your site and I saw it, I was like, man, I've never heard of this. Is it out there? And I looked around, and it didn't seem like there had been a release date, but some of the stuff you were talking about it's been a little while since it's been mentioned. And I looked around and couldn't find any mention of it. I was like, oh, maybe I didn't miss it. Maybe I could still get a hold of this. So that looks awesome.
Yeah, no, we're gonna get it out there eventually. I mean, I would say it's about halfway illustrated, and it's beautiful. I got to tell you. I hope we get it out there soon. We're pushing for it, so it'll come.
Did you want to tell anybody?
It will get out eventually.
Did you want to tell people about the Ghost Project hardcover? Didn't that? I believe that was pretty recent, wasn't it? The hardcover came out, the glow in the dark hardcover.
That came out in 2011. Actually.
Did it come in 2011? Because I thought it was a new one.
Yeah, that came out. That was originally published as a 5-issue miniseries by Oni Press in 2010, and Wizard actually called this the best miniseries of 2010. Shameless. But whether or not you agree with that, it was collected in a hardcover that glows in the dark. I always joke it comes with its own light source. It's got a really kick-ass Steve Ralston glow in the dark cover, and that came out in 2011.
See, I could have swore I was. Is there an ad for it in Great Pacific or something else that? I don't know what I was reading, and there was an ad for it. I could have swore it said it was coming recent. And I was like, I haven't seen this. So, well, that's good. That means it's out there, and I can get a hold of it. So that's awesome.
You can get a hold of it, absolutely.
How much time do you got? You got a little bit of time left, or you have you have to go pretty soon?
I have a little time.
Okay.
So, I gotta ask, because I ask every Yankee fan this, how much do you really hate the Boston Red Sox? Like, is there a real deep hatred from you for them?
You know, I just did a signing up in Massachusetts last weekend.
Oh, that must have been paradise for you.
At a great shop in Bellingham, Massachusetts called Friendly Neighborhood Comics. I highly recommend it. And I jokingly tweeted during the signing, I wanted to thank all the Red Sox fans that came out to see me this afternoon. You are otherwise wonderful people.
Fantastic.
And the best thing about being a sports fan, about being a passionate sports fan, is that there are no consequences beyond what we value as fans. There are no we can hate on one another, we can ridicule one another, we can playfully jab at one another. It doesn't matter. We can argue about the most ridiculous things, and there are no consequences, right? So the Red Sox-Yankees rivalry, the greatest rivalry in sports, as we say it, to me, I mean, it's all good, clean fun, and I've been present for so many seminal moments in that rivalry that I was in Yankee Stadium when Aaron Boone hit that 11th inning home run to win the ALCS in 2003. Watching the Red Sox leave the stadium with their heads down I felt almost drunk with power as a Yankee. I experienced that firsthand. But then I say, to take it down a notch, I was in the stadium the next season in 2004 when the Yankees collapsed. I was there for Games 6 and 7 when they collapsed after winning the first two games to lose the Final Four, and the Red Sox eventually went to the World Series and won their first World Series in like a century. So, it's a great rivalry. I've been in the stadium for so many big moments, but I don't hate them. I mean, I actually like Boston. I mean, Boston's a nice blue-collar town. I really there's something very charming about it. I also like needling them because, no matter what, we may not win all the time. I always say the Yankees, the dirty little secret is the Yankees will probably lose the World Series more than any other team but the odds say I'm going to win more than you just because I've been experiencing that over the course of my lifetime, and I kind of, things bounce off me when misfortune happens. I don't really sweat it. So I don't hate anybody. It's I'm a pretty secure person as a sports fan. Being a Yankee fan has taught me that.
I've noticed that there's definitely all the Yankee fans and all the Boston fans I know, and I know a surprising number of hardcore fans from each side. The Yankee fans are like, yeah, I don't like Boston, but whatever, we're better. And a lot of the Boston fans I know are just mad. Like,
consider our starting positions.
Yeah.
They're looking up at us over the course of, think of it in terms of the decades that we all lived through, right? And overwhelmingly, every decade is ruled by Yankee dominance. And
it's true.
I don't say that to brag; it's just true, right? So of course they're going to be a little bit more virulent in their hatred. So we're good. I got no problem with Boston Red Sox.
Much like you did.
Well, I have a question. I don't know how much you could talk about it, or if you're allowed to or whatever. Is there a chance we'll see you doing more DC Comics work?
Maybe. I can't talk about anything right now. I've got is it May or in June? I've got a Legends of the Dark Knight issue that's coming out that collects three.
Yeah.
A three-part serial that I did for DC's digital department.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun. I'm really fond of that story. I don't remember if it comes out in May or I think it comes out in June, doesn't it?
Yeah. I thought it said April, but I could be wrong. I don't know what their schedule is with the. I don't know what their schedule is with the digital versus the print because it's like the digital episodes are smaller, right? Or digital issues are smaller, and they collect 2 or 3 in a print book, right?
Yeah. It was a 3-part story, so it's 30 pages of story in one issue.
Yeah.
I thought, maybe you're right. It comes out one of these months, but that's the next thing for me coming out from DC, and maybe you will see more. We'll see.
Awesome.
I've got friends over there, and we talk. I have a new series at another publisher that you're going to be hearing about as we get closer to Emerald City Comic Con in a couple of weeks. That I'm excited about. I can't tell you any more than that, but I'm super stoked for this to finally get announced.
Well, that's awesome. Is a publisher will know, or is it a very small company?
Oh yeah, no, it's a publisher I've wanted to work with for a while, and I think people are going to be pretty startled when they see what this is.
Awesome. Well, we will look forward to that, and maybe once that gets announced, or once you get a little bit of that out, we can have you back on for some more talk.
Sure.
So I have one more question with the your run on Firestorm. I don't know if you've listened to the podcast before. We're very new, so we've only had 6 episodes out so far, but I talked about how Firestorm is one of my favorite characters of all time throughout the history of DC Universe, or comics, period. Mm-hmm. And I didn't really care for the way that they relaunched him in New 52. And I'm not one of the New 52 haters. I enjoy a lot of it. I think they did a really great job with it. They have made some decisions here and there I'm not a fan of, but overall, I think it was a great success. And even with Gail Simone, who I love, I still didn't really care for it. And so I dropped it really early before you got on the book. I think you came on with issue 7.
Yes, I came on with issue 7 with Ethan drawing it.
Yeah, and because a couple months ago I went back and read everything up through, and I like how they kind of seem to be steering more towards the traditional Firestorm. Like instead of the multiple Firestorm project stuff, they kind of like it. I just reread issue 0. And I really liked that. I like, it's more my Firestorm, I guess. So I was wondering, did you get...
Well, with issue 0, I was kind of told to, get things back to where they used to be, sort of. So that was the mandate, and that was what... there you go. I'm glad we achieved that.
And did you like doing it, or which way did you like better? Did you like the...
I enjoyed it very much. I, was ultimately disappointed, not in a way that, I'm not here to, make news and trash anybody at DC Comics or anything like that.
Yeah.
But ultimately, we had some pretty big plans that I wanted to execute. Uh-huh. Again, keep in mind that I came on board after this concept was launched. This whole idea of the international firestorms and this sort of new concept for this old DC property. And given all of that, it was right in my wheelhouse, because I walked into this situation where the order of business was, geopolitics and, trying to navigate a world where you don't know allies from enemies, and you got all this nuclear deterrent flying around, and everybody's got their finger on the button. Who's crazy enough to push it? All these themes are right in my they were right in my wheelhouse, and so I was having a really good time, and we really had a lot of huge sci-fi concepts we wanted to explore. I had this entire dystopian storyline that we were going to build toward, and so it was disappointing to not get to do that. Now, that said, I love writing those characters, so I'm always up for doing something else. It was a lot of fun, I don't think I could tell you it was as fulfilling as putting out Great Pacific every month, but I love writing stuff like that. I love trying to both tell a story I really want to tell about characters I really enjoy and the readers really enjoy, while also trying to find the most creatively satisfying way to fill the needs that need to be filled. This issue might need to do certain things, or we need to, bend this series toward, some particular narrative goal that we're going toward as we try and focus the concept behind the book and the rationale. So I really enjoy working in that sort of environment. So, I'm up for more. So,
well, I imagine it's as fulfilling as it is to be able to write something that you created and have, your editorial control. It has to be pretty amazing to be able to write classic characters,
Oh yeah, it's never, writing Batman never gets old.
Yeah.
That's cool. I don't know what else to say. It's to be able. I've gotten to do it a few times over the years, and just doing it most recently was a fucking blast. We had a haunted Batmobile. I had a great time doing that. It's a lot of fun.
Well, I read your AMA on Reddit, and I saw that one of the last things you talked about was how you'd really like to write Superman at some point. So I know you can't talk about anything that might be happening, but I'm kind of hoping with this digital Superman launch, and since you've already done digital Batman, that maybe we'll see a Joe Harris digital Superman story. I think that would be kind of cool.
I think that would be kind of cool too. I have no comment on that at all. But I think that would be cool too.
Yeah. And I'm fairly certain that it will be not as controversial as Orson Scott Card's storyline is going to be, one way or the other.
But yeah, no, I think that's a safe bet.
Yeah.
My views are. I'm definitely passionate with my viewpoints, but I don't think quite as severe. So
yeah, that's one thing I think is funny is that I know that you work with and are friends with Ethan Van Sciver, and you guys are pretty polar opposites on your political and general outlooks on things. At least it seems like on the surface.
Well, I mean, you know what though, we are. We're both very genuine when it comes to that, but I always say, and I'll invoke President Obama when I say this: there is more that unites us than divides us, and that's very true of Ethan Van Sciver and myself. I mean, we have a lot in common. We enjoy one another's company, and we really have a blast collaborating together. I think very highly of the man, and he knows that. So, yeah, we can be friends if we have political differences. I don't think that stuff needs to be fatal.
Oh, I understand completely. My best friend is the most Bush-loving, pro-gun Republican that you'd ever meet in your entire life. And
Kentucky's on this call, right? I know you got to make accommodations. I know you're from parts of we all have friends in places where
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm from Kentucky, and we grew up together, and he is as far right-wing as you can get, and I'm pretty severely left. So it's we have interesting conversations sometimes, but we're still best friends, and you're right. There's you can have your definite issues like that and still find common ground. So I just think it's kind of, and your Facebook fights get pretty funny sometimes too.
All good, clean fun.
So I mentioned this to you off air, so it's not a whole lot of surprise. I think the names will be. I was starting to think of something to make this interview a little different. I'm sure that you've done enough of these to where you get a lot of the same questions. You probably talk about your books a whole lot. I'm sure you talk about Darkness Falls a lot, and I do want to mention that after this little game before we go, because I read something on your AMA I didn't know about Darkness Falls, so I want to bring that up. So don't let me forget that, Joe. That's your job. But I was thinking, what would be cool? How about I throw a list together of 16 famous Joes, like whether they be fictional characters or movie stars or sports figures or whatever. And I'll randomize them, and I'll throw them in a bracket, and I'm going to throw you the matchups, and I'm going to let you pick which Joe is better for whatever reason you decide to give. You can just say, I like this one better, and that's it, or you can give me a crazy answer or detailed answer, whatever you want. And we're going to fight all the way down to what you think the best Joe is. And this is not a comprehensive list by any means. I had to knock off a bunch to keep it to 16.
Okay.
So yeah.
Fair enough.
And this is totally random. There is no rhyme or reason to the matchups. So some of them are going to be pretty uneven, and I'm pretty sure I've got your answer on a couple already. But the first matchup is Joe Simon, comic creator Joe Simon, and Joe Strummer from The Clash.
Ooh. Wow. I love Captain America, but I'm going to go with Joe Strummer.
Good answer.
Hell yeah, good answer.
All right, Shaun, from the other side of the bracket.
Right. The next one is Joe Torre or G.I. Joe.
Joe Torre wins.
Yeah, that was one I hated. I hated to see those get matched up because I think G.I. Joe could have won some others, but as soon as Joe Torre came up against G.I. Joe, I knew who was going to win that one.
It's hard. Yeah, with apologies to the Joes, because I would love to pick G.I. Joe.
Yeah.
But I got to go with Joe Torre. I'm sorry.
But Joe Torre has what?
4 rings?
4 World Series.
He's got 5.
5.
He's got 4 rings. He's got 4 World Series rings. He took the Yankees to the postseason 11 straight years.
Is there a little bit of you that a little grudge you hold against him for playing for the Mets? A little bit, or is it all forgiven?
No. Joe Torre was a New York. He was a local boy, ultimately makes good. When I was a kid, he was the player manager for the Mets, and they were terrible. And I thought of him as like this this bum who was, on the Mets, and they sucked, and he likely sucked. And when he came to manage the Yankees, we all thought he'd suck and he'd bring them down with him, and he didn't. They won the World Series, and he did all the right things, and now he walks with angels in this city forever. It's a great.
I was originally going to actually make the bracket a little more like against like, and I was thinking Joe Torre, Joe Girardi, and I'm like, no, that's going to be an easy win too. So I didn't even put Joe Girardi in here. It's kind of, I like Joe Girardi, but you can't really compare him to Joe Torre. So, all right, your next matchup, and this is on the same side that Joe Strummer just won, is Joe Louis and Joe Dirt.
I don't know how you don't pick Joe Louis in a fight. You got to go with Joe Louis.
Yeah.
I mean, Joe Dirt was a fun little movie and all, but I'm going with Joe Louis.
Yeah. This is another one that made me sad to see the matchups, because I think it would have been fun against some other ones, but that's okay. All right, other side of the bracket.
The next one is Joe DiMaggio versus Joe Namath.
Joe DiMaggio, because he's a Yankee, and I can't stand the Jets. Although
I think I love you that much more now, sir.
I was saying that Joe Willie Namath was awesome. I mean, the man wore a fur coat on the sidelines, and then said they were going to beat Johnny Unitas in the Super Bowl, and did. That's pretty amazing. He pulled it off. I can respect any athlete who trash talks his way to a championship. It doesn't happen all that often. Usually those guys flame out and you laugh at them because they have the audacity to talk. But some people like Muhammad Ali succeed, and that was not a vote against Joe Namath.
No.
That's all I'm saying.
But that's another one where it's like, really, who compares to Joe DiMaggio? There's not a lot that can even touch him. One thing about Joe Namath, I listen to a lot of sports radio on ESPN during the day, and I listen to the Michael Kay and Don LaGreca show in the afternoons, and Joe Namath has a show with him, or has like an hour with him, and that dude sounds like a cartoon character, man. Like, he's hilarious, and he still knows his stuff, man. I mean, he's a smart dude, but he is ridiculous.
He does get drunk and hit on sideline
reporters. My best friend, Bobby Brady.
All right, our next matchup. This is back on the other side. We have, I think this one's gonna be pretty easy. Well, maybe.
Yeah.
We have Bazooka Joe versus Joe Montana.
Ooh, you know what? I'm gonna break the mold and go with Bazooka Joe. Although Bazooka Joe was recently retired, wasn't he?
Yes, he was. It's they announced.
Well, he lasted longer than Joe Montana. So
doesn't have 4 Super Bowls though.
No, fair enough. But how many nickels have been spent on that gum over the years? You tell me what kind of fortune might have been amassed in the last 80 years that Bazooka Joe has been around.
That is true.
All right, the next one is Joe Pesci versus Joe Quesada.
This is not a vote against Joe Quesada, but I'm going to have to go with Joe Pesci.
Good man.
Well, you don't want to make Joe Pesci mad.
He is terrifying.
I don't think I want to make either of them mad, but but Joe Pesci. I think I'd like to believe Joe Quesada would vote for Joe Pesci.
I would think so too. All right, other side, Joe Rogan versus Joe Frazier.
Oh, Joe Frazier.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
I was like, what is he going to say? It better
Joe
be what
Frazier.
I think.
Well,
Right.
yeah. Again, another one where the matchup was unfortunate because since you are a fan of the stoner comedy, I mean, Joe Rogan does fall into that kind of stuff a lot. So I thought against the right one, you might have picked him. But yeah, and this one is an obvious one.
Yeah.
No. There's this amazing scene in the first Rocky movie, when they're getting ready to fight at the end of the film, and Joe Frazier is the local guy from Philadelphia who shows up to wave to the crowd, and he makes an appearance at ringside, and Apollo starts teasing him about how you're next, Joe, you're next, and he's it's a great little cameo in the first Rocky film.
Yeah.
I'm a big Smokin' Joe Frazier fan.
As a quick tangent, I've had this discussion before. How do you feel about in Philly the Rocky statue, or putting Rocky on the Hall of Fame of sports figures? Do you think it's ridiculous because he's a fictional character, or do you think he's because of the history with Philadelphia? It's worth a think.
I think that's fine. Look, Philadelphia hasn't had much in reality. They win once a century. I mean, and I don't say that to tease them. It's the truth. I mean, when have the Eagles won? I mean, the Phillies won a World Series for the first time since 1980 recently. So, and I further say that Rocky the last Rocky film, which I adored, Rocky Balboa, I think I saw it 4 times in the theater, had the best heavyweight boxing at the end that I've seen since before Mike Tyson went to prison. So
yeah, the heavyweight boxing scene has been in decline for a long time.
That's what I mean. But that ending of the last Rocky film was tense. It was stellar. It felt the stakes were there. I was invested, you know.
Yeah.
And I love the Rocky films, with the exception of the 5th one, which I just can't bring myself to watch. I adore the Rocky.
Was that the Tommy Gunn one?
It was the one with the guy from Heroes.
It was.
Yeah, that was a misstep.
Yeah.
All right, last of the first round matchups.
Next one is Joe Kubert versus Joe Hill.
We're going to go with Joe Kubert.
Yeah. That is a tough one, but you can't, like, Joe Kubert's the master. I love Joe Hill's stuff. He's a great writer, but that's another one that's just unfortunate.
Joe Kubert, in memoriam. It was awful to lose Joe Kubert last year.
Yeah, it was. But I thought DC did a really nice tribute pages in all their books. I thought that was really well done. All right, now we're going into the first match of the second round. We're going into the Elite Eight, if you will. The first matchup is Joe Strummer versus Joe Louis.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm gonna put my faith in the power of punk rock and ride Joe Strummer into the Final Four.
Fuck yeah!
Nice. All right, we have Joe Strummer in the Final Four.
All right, next one, the Yankee matchup: Joe Torre versus Joe DiMaggio.
I knew this would make you frustrated. I knew it.
Do you know, I'm going to say Joe DiMaggio because I know there's no way Joe Torre would allow Joe DiMaggio to lose to him.
This is true.
Nice.
This is true.
I don't think Joe Torre would accept something above Joe DiMaggio. I think that there are some natural truths we have to observe, and Joe DiMaggio. He may win this. I'm just letting you know now.
Yeah. Fine, so that's what I'm kind of figuring. But all right, third one in the Final Four is Bazooka Joe versus Joe Frazier.
I already eliminated Joe Louis, and I was, that wasn't easy. So I'm going to let Joe Frazier survive.
Yes.
All right.
He was phased out this year. I gave Joe an encore, but it's time to let Bazooka Joe go.
Joe Pesci versus Joe Kubert.
I don't see enough of Joe Pesci. As I wish I saw. So I'm going to go with Joe Pesci.
Oh, okay.
All right. Now we're down to the Final Four. All right. For the first finals, we have Joe Strummer versus Joe Frazier.
Joe Strummer. Although I don't know what I'm going to do in the finals. Yeah.
All right. Joe DiMaggio versus Joe Pesci.
That's still tough. I mean, it's just let Joe Strummer free.
All right. Joe DiMaggio versus Joe Pesci.
That's not an easy one.
Think of it this way: who would win in a fight?
It's fight to the death, I think. But I'm going to have to go with that, Joe.
All right, and our finals: Joe Strummer from the Clash versus the Yankees' Joe DiMaggio.
Tough one. Joe DiMaggio played in 56 straight games. The man played through injuries. The man won 5 straight championships. This guy was the rock of a city, of a generation. And I think Joe Strummer was in his way as well, but I just think that he had a great run through this bracket, but I got to go with the Yankee Clipper.
I think it's a pretty epic finals, though, man. It's
I think it was. It was pretty epic. I mean, I'm proud to have voted for Joe Strummer through those brackets.
As well you should be.
That's one hell of an after party, too.
Oh, God. Yeah, I would really like to be at that cast party for that bracket. That's a barn burner right there.
Probably an hour that people are awake.
Yeah. All right, we won't keep you too much longer. I just wanted to touch on Darkness Falls for a little bit. I didn't even realize that you'd written it until recently, and I love that movie. And then I haven't got to see the short that you did, the Tooth Fairy short yet. Is it on your site?
Yeah, it is on my site.
Okay.
It's on my site.
But in your AMA, and this kind of comes with the territory, I guess. You said that there were rewrite after rewrite, and they changed it a lot, and it ended up not really resembling in a lot of ways the original script that you wrote. Can you tell us a little bit about that? What your vision was versus what happened?
Well, to be honest, I mean, it's a ways away, so I don't know how well I can put myself back in the mindset that I had when, I was working on the picture, and then afterwards when I was no longer working on it. And, but I mean, I can tell you that there were a lot of changes done to the film. It was rewritten umpteen times. They reshot whole sequences of it based on meddling by the studio, as well as focus group screenings, and for instance, one of the more, and I don't say this to trash the movie in the least. I only mean to say that to illustrate one of the points I'm talking about is that at one point you can look back and see that McFarlane Toys released a Movie Maniacs figure of the Tooth Fairy that was this incredible design that Steve Wang, a creature creator in Hollywood, had put together, that Doug Jones was going to play in the film. He was going to portray the Tooth Fairy. Doug Jones, who went on to be Abe Sapien in the Hellboy movies, and great prosthetic actor,
Silver Surfer, and a million other roles.
What's that?
He was a Silver Surfer. He was it's been in a million movies.
Yeah. I mean, Doug Jones is great, and there were a lot of hands steering the ship, and they ended up cutting that monster, that makeup, that costume out of the movie, and they hired Stan Winston's studio to come in and redesign it. And I personally was not as fond of that, and I don't think most people would disagree with me if you look at the McFarlane figure and you look at the creature that we ultimately used in the movie. It just felt like by the time I was finished, there was still so much of an odyssey that project went on, that I felt by the end so disconnected from it that then all of a sudden everyone's back together because the movie's finally coming out, and the movie makes money, and suddenly you're answering questions about it, and it can be a really surreal experience, and I get the impression that many Hollywood productions can be crazy like that, and it's just the nature of the beast.
Yeah, I've heard that the focus groups are the death of many a script.
Well, you can't blame a movie studio for testing something, I suppose, when they're on the hook for the many millions of dollars that they invest in a picture.
Yeah.
But, it was an experience, I'll say that, and ultimately that movie was successful. It was number one at the box office when it opened. It led to me getting deals at other studios and doing other things, and it was definitely an education that I value tremendously. So when I talk about it, it's not so much that I'm upset or anything. It's more like just illustrating, trying to put myself back in the shoes of the person who was in that experience, and just explaining it as much as I can recall, because it was a pretty dizzying, all-consuming thing back when it was happening.
So is it something you would go back and do again? Not Darkness Falls, obviously, but would you go back to movies again, or are you going to try to focus on comics?
Oh, yeah, no. One of the reasons I got into doing creator-owned comics, I had worked at Marvel as a young guy, and then I sort of segued. I had the good fortune to have the opportunity to work in Hollywood once I made that Tooth Fairy short, and then the studio ended up buying it from me, and they paid me to develop it into a feature that eventually became Darkness Falls. One of the things that was amazing, and I definitely leapfrogged and pinballed to different projects and different studios based on that. But one of the things I really missed was doing something for the passion and for the sake of getting it out there as I think it should be told. And a lot of times when I would go up for these different assignments, or I would go into a room to pitch a particular project, or I would be pitching to get a particular job, writing horror movie sequel X, or shitty horror movie remake Y. I wasn't really happy with what I was spending my time doing. It was all about chasing opportunities, and I knew I had a lot of concepts, and I knew I knew that I had more comics in me, that I had not gotten to do, and I did not feel I was being represented creatively as best I could be, and I was starting to really get burned out, just sort of chasing stars, like chasing, trying to get the next project up and running, trying to get hired on the next gig. And, at the end of the day, not having a body of work that I was really satisfied with creatively. And so getting into creator-owned comics and getting to do things like Ghost Project and, Great Pacific and other stuff is that I get to put this stuff out there as I see it should be. And then we get to exploit once it, provided there's a market for it beyond comics. I first try to make it the best comic or graphic novel I can, but I have something of a knack for doing this. I don't know if I could tell you exactly how it happens, but I've had some luck getting stuff made, and these concepts, I have this audacity to think that I think these should be movies and television shows, and there's been some action on a few of these properties of mine lately, and I think you'll hear some interesting news in the coming months on some of them. So that's sort of, when you say, do I want to work in movies more? The answer is yes, of course. I'm pursuing a few courses of action right now to sort of tie all the things I'm doing together at once.
That's very interesting. I think it's like almost seems like the future of a lot of properties, like whether it be novel or comic, seems to be in television anymore. Like we see the success of Game of Thrones, and you see the huge success of serial television shows, whether it's a normal network or HBO or whatever. And like it's really intriguing from the comics aspect. It's like not many people are ever really perfectly satisfied with a comic book movie. But then you see stuff come out in episode form, television show form, like Arrow, for instance, which is very different from the comics, but very well done and very satisfying. I think it's really cool that to think that we could see some of your stuff in like a serial form or a movie form would be pretty amazing. Like I could definitely see a Great Pacific television show. That would be pretty awesome.
Well, I think that would be pretty awesome too. We'll see what happens.
Well, we will definitely be watching them. Shaun, you got anything else? Anything else that you want to let us know about, Joe? That you have? I mean, you've told us about your upcoming projects. Anything else that you want to tell people about, or?
No, I think we covered everything. Yeah, just keep your eyes on the news breaks around Emerald City Comic Con,
awesome.
March 1st through 3rd. Yeah, new series to be announced.
Awesome. We will definitely do that. And hopefully we could have you back on the show, or maybe get you down here to Florida to hang out a little bit. Maybe come to MegaCon or something. But it was very much a pleasure to have you on, and we had a good time. We hope you enjoyed it, too.
I did. Thanks, guys, for having me.
So thank you, and hopefully we'll talk to you again soon. Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, Joe.
Take care, guys.